you've got an update for us on the assisted dying bill, and the question in my mind is it going to pass?
Well, I'm very hopeful, actually, especially after a very disastrous committee stage, that in fact it won't pass. But yeah, I'm going to give you an update on the bill. It is the Kim Ledbetter's Terminally Ill Adults End of Life Bill, in case you're not aware, and it's known as the Assisted Dying or Assisted Suicide Bill, more accurately. And you may remember it had its second reading in Parliament on the 29th of November last year. So a lot has happened since then, and there's far too much to cover today. So I'm just going to highlight a few key points. And for more detail, you can read a recent article that we published on our UKMFA Substack, or you can go to the campaign page on our website, which will be in the show notes, hopefully. So to start with a bit of background, UKMFA strongly opposes this bill. It violates a fundamental tenet of medical ethics that a doctor should first do no harm. Legalizing doctor-assisted suicide would profoundly change the relationship between a doctor and patient and the state and an individual, as death would be sanctioned as a legitimate treatment for suffering and pain. And Hippocrates put strict ethical boundaries around medical practice to guard against doctor-induced harm. And this included the doctor's pledge not to administer a poison to anyone when asked to do so, nor to suggest such a course. So last autumn, Dignity in Dying ran a huge public campaign promoting the bill with mass advertising in the media and London Underground, and they had celebrity endorsement in the mainstream media. And the message was that this is a compassionate bill with the best safeguards in the world to prevent unbearable suffering at the end of life by offering a quick and painless doctor-assisted death to anyone with a terminal diagnosis and fewer than 6 months to live. However, most palliative care consultants don't support assisted dying, and they argue that with high-quality palliative care, no one needs to suffer an agonizing or undignified death. And they advocate for more resources for hospices and palliative care services. And those opposed to the bill also cite the real-world evidence that a slippery slope is inevitable, as eligibility criteria will widen and safeguards will be dropped, that the vulnerable will feel a duty to die for fear of being a burden, and that the reality of an assisted death is often far from painless or quick and can involve significant and prolonged suffering. So on the 29th of November last year, crowds on both sides of the debate gathered outside Parliament, and those of us opposing the bill included disabled rights groups, Christian groups, and healthcare professionals. But regrettably, MPs voted the bill through, 325 to 275 votes. So the bill moved into the committee stage for further scrutiny and to consider amendments. The third and final vote in Parliament will be on the 25th of April, so not long, before it passes into the House of Lords. So the committee commenced their hearings on the 21st of January. They met every Tuesday and Wednesday, and this stage was completed 2 days ago, despite 5 more sessions being available before recess. Even the mainstream media have criticised what Laura Dodsworth has called the ghoulish haste and apparent determination of the proponents to rush it through at any cost. So moving on to the committee of MPs selected by Kim Ledbetter, they were heavily weighted in favour of legalising assisted suicide. There were 15 for and 8 against. But despite this, the MPs opposed to the bill, but in particular Danny Kruger, Naz Shah and Rebecca Paul, they did a magnificent job of putting Ledbetter and the bill under intense scrutiny and challenge. They submitted multiple amendments to try to rectify huge flaws in the bill, but nearly all of those amendments were rejected. So moving on to Kim Ledbetter, she had promised a rigorous scrutiny of her bill, but the committee stage has raised serious concerns about bias and a marked dilution of safeguards. Watching the discussions revealed that legislating for a safe system of doctor-assisted dying is a can of worms of extraordinary complexity. Many who initially supported the bill are now expressing alarm at the reality which has been laid bare over the last 7 weeks. it became clear that the bill is riddled with holes and is unworkable. It simply cannot be made safe to prevent coerced or wrongful deaths. But worse still, Ledbetter and her colleagues appeared to lack the will or desire to tighten the bill's safeguards. And instead, one by one, crucial safeguards were removed or rejected. And the slippery slope that us campaigners had warned about played out in real time before the bill is even passed into law. So Ledbetter showed a worrying lack of respect for the democratic process. Her committee initially met in private to discuss which expert witnesses to call, which prevented public scrutiny, and the witnesses they called were heavily skewed in favour of the bill. Unbelievably, the committee initially voted not to hear evidence from the Royal College of Psychiatrists, despite their vital role in ascertaining capacity and assessing for coercion. There was a public outcry which forced Ledbetter to U-turn and give the Royal College an opportunity to give evidence. Then no witnesses were called to represent disabled rights. And again, public pressure and action by disabled rights groups led to another U-turn, and Disability Rights UK were finally called to give evidence. But other vital voices, such as the British Geriatric Society and even the government's chief suicide prevention strategy advisor, have not been allowed to give evidence. The involvement of a High Court judge was sold to the public and wavering MPs as the strongest safeguard in the world. So it was appalling that it was quickly dropped in the committee stage, considered unworkable as it would overload the court system. This massive change to the bill outraged opponents, and a group of 26 Labour MPs issued a statement expressing their disgust, calling it another broken promise, showing how haphazard the process had become. It was replaced with a 3-person assisted dying review panel consisting of a lawyer, social worker and psychiatrist, and overseen by a voluntary assisted dying commissioner. Yet no impact assessment was offered or evidence that the panel would be workable. And already eminent psychiatrists and the British Association of Social Workers have warned that their professions don't have the capacity to populate these panels. The operation of the panel is opaque. Kim Ledbetter admitted that the panel is neither a judicial entity or a court, so evidence will not be under oath. Danny Kruger has pointed out that it will also not provide a clinical assessment of the applicant and is therefore a quasi-multidisciplinary team at the wrong stage in the process and for the wrong purpose. And then moving on to the panel requirements, they are meagre and inadequate, and this was pointed out by Sir James Mumby, a retired High Court judge. They are only mandated to hear from one of the 2 doctors and the patient, but they are not required to question either. All this will be done remotely by video or even audio link. Then an amendment was rejected to give a family a legal right and route to give evidence or share concerns with the panel. And this means that family members are completely excluded from the process, which is very sinister. They don't even have to be informed. Appealing the panel's decision only works one way. The patient can appeal if their application is not granted. However, if it is granted, a third party who disputes the decision cannot appeal. This slide shows some examples of the multiple safeguarding amendments which the committee rejected. They also voted against excluding people with anorexia, Down syndrome, autism and learning difficulties, and from preventing doctors from raising the option of assisted suicide with 16 and 17-year-olds. Even an amendment requiring all applicants to be referred to a palliative care consultant was rejected. And an amendment requiring a doctor to ask the applicant why they are seeking an assisted death was rejected. Supporters of the bill argued it would infringe the person's autonomy to take a legal course of action. And MP Rachel Hopkins stated it was basically none of their business. We agree with Danny Kruger that this diabolical bill must be halted. The third and final parliamentary vote is on the 25th of April. Only around 30 MPs need to change their vote to defeat the bill. So we are urging the public to contact their MP ASAP to urge them to vote no. And there are useful template letters on several campaign group websites. And better still, ask for a meeting to discuss your concerns. I'm going to give the last word to Danny Kruger, who made the powerful point that this will not just enable a small group of people access to a doctor-assisted death, but instead will impose on everyone this new reality, will change life and death for everyone, introducing the idea that our individual worth lies in our utility, valuable for only so long as we are useful, not a burden, not a cost, not making a mess. Thanks.
Thank you, Liz. Patrick, you got a question?
Yeah, Liz, where does the, do you know where the Church of England or the Catholic Church stand on this issue? And if so, has anybody voiced any of their concerns from the clergy side of that community?
Yeah, that's a really good question. My son's actually at a Catholic school, and last year I was really heartened. In November, I went to a service in their abbey, and there was a statement from the Catholic Church out on the front for people to, pick up a leaflet, basically expressing their strong opposition to this. And I think most Christian, I haven't checked the Church of England position recently, but I'm pretty sure that they are against it as well. So, and very much the Christian groups like Christian Concern, the Christian Institute have been running big campaigns against this.
Okay. All right. Interesting.
Liz, thank you very much. Liz will be joining us.